to the entertainer talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about two prospects that the New York Giants reportedly interviewed yesterday at the Reese's Senior Bowl. Now, for those of you that do not know, the Reese's Senior Bowl is kind of like an all-star game for senior prospects that are trying to improve their draft stock. And ironically enough, last year, the number 6 overall pick by the New York Giants dramatically helped his draft stock at the Reese's Senior Bowl, and that, of course, being Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones had a terrific game, and that was probably partially the reason as to why the New York Giants drafted him at number 6. I think Gettleman came out with quotes after the game, or after they had drafted Daniel Jones, that he basically said that he fell in love with Daniel Jones after seeing him play in that game. So certainly could have an influence on who the New York Giants look to draft in this year's draft. Now, the two guys that they did interview, Alton Robinson and Eno Benjamin, which I found out from GiantsWire.com, I did a little digging and tried to do as much research as I can. I went to various college websites like Big Board Scouting, DraftTech.com, and gathered as much info as I could on these two prospects. Benjamin is a running back, and Alton Robinson is a defensive end. Now, from what I read, people think that Robinson could play in both the 3-4 and the 4-3. He comes from Syracuse, and Eno Benjamin comes from Arizona State. And Benjamin is kind of a shifty running back. He's 5'10", 201 pounds. They say he's a good wide receiver. I was actually able to pull up a quick highlight clip of him here showing the shiftiness. And both these players shared something very similar. They were probably projected to go higher coming out in their junior year, and both players regressed in their senior year, which is why their draft stock has fallen, and most websites project these guys to go in rounds 3 to 4. Now, of course, they're trying to help that draft stock at the Senior Bowl, at the NFL Draft Combine, and we'll see if they can move up the charts. But, I want to go over some of the notes that I was able to gather from both of these players, and I think that they could potentially both be targets for the New York Giants if they do fall to the 3rd or 4th round. Of course, their stock could go up, like I said, if they have a great 40 time, if they perform great at this game. But the Giants certainly have their eyes on them, as as I said, reports have come out that they interviewed both of these prospects. So I wanted to go over some of the notes of what I was able to gather on both of them. We're going to start with the running back, Eno Benjamin. We're going to go over his stats. 2018, he had a breakout year. He rushed for 1,642 yards, 263 yards as a receiver, and he had 18 combined touchdowns. And everything I read about this guy is his shiftiness and his ability to be a potential 3-down back at the NFL level. Of course, if the New York Giants were to draft him in the 3rd or 4th round, they would be looking at him more as like a 3rd-down back, a situational back, a guy that they could use in the passing game. And it certainly does not hurt to have more weapons. And, we've been clamoring as Giants fans to have a backup running back for quite some time. Now, some people may want that, big back, the guy that could come in on a 3rd and short, 4th and short, something like that. That is not the strength of a Benjamin. He is more of an explosive type back. Kind of reminds me, obviously I'm not expecting to be anywhere near this, but when you read his profile, kind of reminds me of an Alvin Kamara type running back. Someone like that, a guy that's going to come out of the backfield, catch a lot of balls for you, and actually runs very hard between the tackles. Now, like I said, 2019, he regressed a bit. Now, some people point to the fact that the offensive line worsened in his senior year. But regardless, you see the yardage dip. He dipped almost 600 yards. His yards per carry dipped 1.2 yards per carry. Only averaged 4.3 yards per carry in his senior year. And he had 12 combined touchdowns, 10 on the ground, 2 through the air. Had 347 yards catching. But certainly a guy you want to keep an eye on, and he was projected to go higher going into the season, and because of his regression, is now going in the 3rd and 4th round in most mock drafts. Also wanted to pull up some things that people had to say about him on the websites that I mentioned on Big Board Scouting, Draft Tech, and I believe Fansided was another website I looked at. When running against contact, Benjamin can drop his pads to create leverage and will run his feet until the whistle to gain added yardage. He lowers his shoulders well to fend off hits, and his overall contact balance provides him with enough stability to keep him functioning down the field versus physicality. So he's a hard-nosed runner, even though he's small in stature. He's only 201 pounds, 5'10". From everything I read, he's a guy that could definitely run between the tackles and get you hard yardage. These are his strengths. Eno Benjamin has a well-rounded out frame with the needed muscle mass to survive the level of physicality in the NFL. Benjamin does well with lane locations off of the handoff and has a jump cut and sidestep in his arsenal to reach his most advantageous opening. He has the capability to read zone and power layouts effectively, while usually being quick to get to clearly open lanes. When the inside of the line is devoid of run space, Benjamin presents the ability to bounce to the outside of the formation to search for a gap. So there you go. There's some of his strengths. He's a guy that's capable of breaking out big runs on the outside, but also could run between the tackles. And then to add to that, Benjamin is a true three-down back whose combination of quickness and power will play at the next level. If a team wants to take a running back in the 2020 NFL Draft but doesn't want to use a top pick on a top guy, Benjamin stands out as an obvious target in the late third to early fourth round range. So there you go. If the Giants are looking for a backup running back, something that I think a lot of New York Giants fans have been clamoring for, he could be a guy they target in the third and fourth round. And obviously, the Giants are interested in him. Now, in terms of his weaknesses, which I forgot to pull up, meant to show you guys that, they said that he needs to improve on his blocking and, at times does not follow his blockers properly. And that's common things for rookie running backs to have to improve on. Next guy, obviously, I'm going to go over is the second guy they interviewed, Alton Robinson. I actually found an interesting story about Robinson that I'll get to in a second as to why he had to start at community college, and is certainly something that I'm sure the New York Giants asked him in the interview, and it'll be interesting to see if it hurts his draft stock, something that happened in high school. But first thing I want to go over is his statistics. At Syracuse, he actually played at Syracuse, was originally supposed to go to Texas A&M, but because of the altercation, I think it forced him to go to community college, and then he ended up at Syracuse for 3 years. 2018, of course, if you look at that, is his breakout year where he had 10 sacks and was very highly regarded going into this year. A lot of people viewed him as a top 3 or 4, maybe 5 pass rusher in this year's draft. And then this year, for some reason, he dipped. Right, he only had 4.5 sacks, and obviously you see the production is not there on the level of a 2018. His sacks were cut in half, and that is why he's now projected to go in the third or the fourth round by many draft sites. We'll see if he can impress people at the combine, things like that. He stands at 6'4", 260 pounds. When he was coming out of high school, he was only, I think, 35 pounds. So he put on some muscle while he was at college to help him prepare for the NFL. And these are some of the things we're going to go over. This, I got off a website that had him ranked as high as third going into this year off his very strong junior season at Syracuse. Every draft season, talent evaluators, from your average media scout to guys in the NFL, have that one favorite prospect. For me, that guy in the 2020 NFL Draft is Syracuse's Alton Robinson. Last year, he and his teammate Kendall Coleman, who is another guy we're going to keep an eye on. I also read he's another really good edge rusher that could be going in the same range, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Combined for 20 sacks, yet no one was talking about them. Thankfully, people have started to catch on to Robinson and what he could do on the field. Like with Young, Robinson immediately passes the eye test, standing at 6'4" and weighing in at a listed 256 pounds. He's a long-frame pass rusher, similar to that of Brian Burns or Montez Sweat. His play on the field is special too, as he can be seen constantly dominating opposing tackles at the point of attack. So, good stuff there. When you put on the 2018 tape for Robinson, his speed off the edge is what pops out immediately. Most of the time, he often leaves opposing tackles in the dust at the snap of the ball, and then proceeds to hit with amazing bendability, as shown below by our friend across the pond, and they showed a quick video clip of him. And then, well, he does rely more on his first step quickness than Coleman. He shows a knack for swiping away the arms of tackles, while at other times, he'll hit them with a mean bull rush. The only negative I have on Robinson at the present time is that he's a little inconsistent versus the run, but all in all, I think he could be a great player in either a 4-3 or a 3-4 scheme. So there you go, versatility. It's something that we've talked about a lot, what Joe Judge wants on this football team. Now this is what I was able to dig up. He was actually facing potentially 20 years in jail. Seems to me like that's a little over the top based off of this. Now, obviously, he wasn't found guilty. Otherwise, he would have been in jail. But this is why I believe he didn't end up at Texas A&M. On February 9th, police said Robinson, 17 at the time, stole his ex-girlfriend's purse and her cell phone, according to a Bexar County, Texas arrest report. A struggle over the purse injured Robinson's ex-girlfriend's knee, the report stated. After police said Robinson pushed the woman down, she ran after Robinson, who dropped the purse but kept the cell phone, according to the report. Robinson allegedly committed a similar crime in May of 2015, stealing his same ex-girlfriend's purse and pushing her into a bush after she chased him, per multiple media outlets' reports at the time. The woman was not identified by name in Robinson's arrest report. So it was a two-time incident with the same girlfriend. It seems as if it's drama in high school, but obviously, we don't look lightly on hitting a woman, and, there's no video footage. And then it said, if found guilty of second-degree robbery, Robinson could face up to 20 years in prison. When asked what happened on February 9th, Robinson said, all I got to say is I can only control what I can control. I can't control what somebody else says. Despite the possible 20-year sentence, those around Robinson weren't too worried. He had returned his ex-girlfriend's phone the night after the incident, McAuliffe said. Robinson also showed up to school the next day, he added. And obviously, I don't believe he faced any time in jail because, he ended up playing college football, I think, in 2016 in community college before having to transfer to Syracuse, where he had a great junior season and regressed this year. But in both these cases, these are players that had higher expectations going into their senior year, who have a lot of ability, who displayed that in their junior year, who fell off a bit in their senior year. So the Giants may be looking at these guys as potential guys with, who had, potential first-round grades, who fell off due to a lack of production. And the Giants, I'm sure, are trying to find out why that production dipped and whether or not they're worth a shot in the third or fourth round. That report on Robinson, and I'm sure teams know about it, may hurt his draft stock. Obviously, teams look into every nook and cranny when they're evaluating a prospect, and I'm sure they'll look into that. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but these are two guys to definitely keep an eye on, in an Alton Robinson and an Eno Benjamin. I thought they were interesting guys that the Giants interviewed yesterday, and obviously Giants need the pass rusher, and we could use a backup running back. Seems like Benjamin could be that guy who catches you 4 or 5 balls out of the backfield, and we know that the Patriots, who Joe Judge is obviously coming from, have always used a platoon backfield. Obviously, Barkley's going to be featured, but they like to have that pass-catching aspect on third down. So, an interesting name for sure, in a Benjamin and a Robinson, and we'll see what happens. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.